Hey everyone, welcome back to the range. My name is Matt, also known as the King of Armor Destruction, Armor Wizard, Zap, and we have a body armor retest today. We've tested the Adept Colossus a while back and it stopped some very insane threats, including our M993 going over 3,400 feet per second. But we're back again today to see what we can do with some very rare threats. We've got some weird 6.5 millimeter Swedish as well as our 7.62 by 5.4 Russian 7N37. Let's take a closer look at these panels and see what we have in store today. Now, in full transparency, Jake over at Adept sent over these panels for us to test with no strings attached. I do have an affiliate set up with them that earns you 5% off your order if you're looking at picking up these plates. Based on their performance specifications, they rank as one of the top plates on my go-to list when it comes to stopping our threats. As I mentioned, this is a large panel, so the plate measurements on the website say it is 10 by 13, and we measured this actually larger at 10.5 by 13 1/8. This is 8.45 pounds or 3.81 kilograms. It is 1.130 inches thick or 28.7 millimeters thick for those across the pond. As I mentioned, it is multi-curve, so we have a nice sexy curve there and there as well, depending on your body type. Usually these fit and conform a lot better than a single curve, but there are some body types that may prefer a single curve. Now, if this is the first time you're viewing my YouTube channel, we do all of our body armor demos completely different than everyone else on YouTube. We're after worst case scenario. Say it with me again, we're after worst case scenario. So that typically means I'm going to use the longest barrel lengths possible to get that maximum velocity so that we know if this particular body armor can stop one of these insane threats at 45 feet, when you add all of that distance and velocity loss, that projectile is likely not to go through. Since this is rifle armor, we shoot at 45 feet. We also shoot at 0 degrees again because that's worst case scenario. Since this employs a ceramic strike face per the NIJ, we've gone ahead and dropped all 3 of these plates on this face 2 times as a preconditioning test. After we've done that, we mark a DT on the plate indicating that we've done the drop test, and if we do it more than 2 times, we put a little number there. And we also mark whether it passes a torque test, meaning that I grab the opposing edges of the plates and apply opposing force to listen for any cracks. If you see a C and a check mark, that means that there is some cracking that I can hear on these plates. TQ means that it passed that. I do hear a little bit of cracking, but not as much as I've heard on some other plates. When we tested this in the past, it had pretty good bonding between the backer and the polyethylene, so I don't think that those cracks should be negatively impacting our performance. We also use a giant clay briefcase filled with Romoplastilina, #1 clay from Chavant, and that acts as our compressible media to put the body armor up against. And now it's like 55 to 60 degrees out here on my property. I can't keep that in an oven all day and keep it at 100 degrees in environmental chamber. The NIJ drops a ball on it to certify the dimple, so we're looking at a representation of what back face could be. If we see something like 60 to 70 millimeters in my clay with a shot, that likely would be failing in the NIJ's eyes. We use a chronograph whenever possible. We have a Pro Chronopal Digital DOX as well as a Garmin 0C1 from Bass Pro Shops. A big thank you to them for sending that out. It's been a godsend that we have 2 of those data sets, again, because we need to know the velocity of that round. This particular plate is rated at VPAM 12, so that is a 196 grain tungsten core projectile going, I think, 2650 feet per second. So if I'm shooting the equivalent to that and I'm only shooting it at 2400 feet per second, I'm not meeting up to the test specifications and could be giving you guys false expectations of performance. Finally, we put a spreadsheet here at the beginning and the end, and we kind of foreshadow all the threats that we're going to shoot at it. We mark our velocities and our penetrations. In the end, we do a fan favor. That's a teardown. That's where we get to look at the guts of our plates. We can confirm if the plate has edge-to-edge protection, if the manufacturer is claiming that. And this particular Adept Colossus does have edge-to-edge, meaning that for this entire 10.5 by 13 1/8 that ceramic extends almost all the way out to the edge. There are certain companies who will sell you a lighter plate because they use a foam ring on the outer perimeter that reduces the amount of strike face. Sometimes people misleadingly think that this little edge right here is that foam border on there, but usually you can take like a Stanley knife or something and stab that, and if you get resistance, that usually means that strike face goes there. We've confirmed on before that this particular plate uses a full edge-to-edge strike face. And finally, I do want to remind everyone that I am not an NIJ lab, so if you see a threat stopped and or penetrated over here, you should always defer to the manufacturer to produce accredited, recent, and frequent lab results showing that those threats are stopped. I do have to place as many threats on a plate as possible, so don't always assume that because I get a penetration on a 7th or 8th shot that particular plate is garbage. That just means I'm stretching my money as thin as possible. And on the flip side, if you're the manufacturer and you see me stop some insane threat like M993 going 3,500 feet per second, you should send that off to a lab and have that added as a special rifle threat to your panel. Plate number 1 is strapped in and ready to go. This first threat is very rare. This is 6.5 by 55 millimeter Swedish. This is an M96 Mauser. It's got a 29.1 inch barrel. A big thank you to R.A.N.G.E who lent this to me to make this test happen. I acquired this tungsten core projectile. I think it's PPRJ is the designation in a trade. I've only got one of them, so I'll have to make this shot count. I did pick up an Echo Machine hub adapter in our M14 threads. We have this suppressed with a Form 1. Velocity 3171. Woo, that's pretty fast. Our next threat is in 7.62 by 54R, very rare, 7N37. This has a tungsten core. I do believe this is a 9130, so this has a 29-inch barrel. I borrowed this from my friend Josh. A big thank you to him. I don't have any Mosin Nagants. I probably should pick one up at some point. .27. I was a little close to that last shot. Now it's time for a rematch. We brought out our 8mm Mauser. This particular round penetrated the Adept Colossus last go around. This is our SMKH. This is a 196 grain tungsten core. What's different about this particular tungsten versus most modern AP and tungsten is this is a tungsten heavy alloy, or WHA. It's not a cemented tungsten carbide. So while it may not do well against like steel, it seemed to do very well against our ceramic threat. 29.65. Easy enough. Our 6.5 PPRJ was right there. Our 7N37 was right there. Now I wanted probably about 4 inches from that to ensure, maximum, advantage to the plate there, but we are at least 2 inches. Then our 8mm SMKH is down there. Help her hand, place those in the comments below. Oh, Raggy. Our 7N37 as well as our 8mm SMKH were able to penetrate. I'm very interested to see if I can pull some of this out, if there's any of the tungsten left when we're done, and see what kind of tungsten that is, whether it's got any cobalt or anything mixed in with it. But our 8mm SMKH continues to dominate. We're gonna jump around in calibers a little bit, but this is the U.S. Army's new hotness. This is 6.8 by 51 millimeters, or 277 Fury, the next generation squad weapon. This is the SIG MCX Spear. This has a 16-inch barrel versus the M7, which has a 13-inch barrel. We have their suppressor up front, and what I have for you is their general purpose, or XM 1186 round. Now this particular bullet variant is the Gen 1 offering. I do believe SIG has patented a revised bullet that has better accuracy. I actually picked these up from Warpig Armory. He has been a good source for all of this hard to find, gray market area ammunition. I can't really mention that I have a discount code from him because YouTube hates that, but you can probably look him up pretty easily. So we're gonna take 3 shots of this at this particular plate. It's 120 grains, so this should be on the left by the C. 3105. I do not have an official velocity designation for this round, so these are hand loads effectively. And then shot number 2 will be in the upper part of the plate. 3143, all the way back to the right. 3073. Now it's time to slap that plate. We've got our 7.62 NATO, we've got our M948 slap, or Sabo light armor penetrating round. The tungsten penetrator goes about 4,000 feet per second, give or take, depending on the barrel length. We've removed the muzzle brake from our Savage 110 here. And then this guy right here is a Lapua experimental round. Has an exposed penetrator tip. I do believe I got these from my buddy Mark. A big thank you to him. I only have 2 of those. So we'll take 2 shots of the slap on this plate and then a shot of that, and we'll call it on this one. If we could take a quick break from shooting, these 2 particular slap rounds have a little bit of history behind them, or at least if you believe everything on the internet. A while back, a collector contacted me and wanted to trade some of this to me, and from what he told me, again, this is his word, he took a shooting from elevation class from Chris Kyle, the American sniper, and the M948 slap was one of his preferred rounds to use. This has a 616 head stamp, 1999. So it should be the bottom left. 42.63, wowzers, Batman. 42.41. 42.05 by your guys's, and then this shot will be in the lower right hand corner by the QR code. 29.98. Starting to be pretty mean to this particular plate. Our 6.8 GP rounds, number 1, 2, and 3. Now there is the XM1184 variant to that, and that is the tungsten penetrator versions. I haven't seen any specs on that yet, or any hint at when those may be on the gray market, and maybe quite some time. And again, those are hand loads. The velocity could be quite a ways down on my 16-inch versus the 13-inch, so we'll have to try to find that. And then our slap rounds, number 1, and then number 2, we're a little close to some of those rounds, but that's still 2 inches. That's 2 inches, and then that specialty Lapua round down there pretty much puked out our ceramic on the side there. Place those bets in the comments below. Right, oh, R.A.N.G.E. We have penetrations from the slap and from that Lapua exposed tungsten penetrating round. I'd like to try to find some more information on that. I'll have to annotate the video if I can find any more information. I don't know how many of them are left. Interesting, on the slap, we stopped the second one, so that may just be part of the epicenter causing that. Otherwise, back face is a little dimples here and there. Nothing too bad to write home about. I would say that that shot from the 6.8 is the worst up there. If we had to measure it, it's right around 26 millimeters, so right in line with what you'd expect. Over here is a lot less, 17 millimeters. So we've torn these down before. The polyethylene that Adept is using is very, very good. This plate is handling a lot of threats that most other plates wouldn't. And like I said, in the grand scheme of things, typically in a lab rating, they likely would shoot just one of these multiple times over, maybe 3 shots on a plate at most before they went to a new one. I have to stretch mine as much as I can, but very, very interesting. It seems like, again, our 8mm SMKH is the winner here. Plate number 2 is strapped in and ready to go when it's time to bring out the 300 Win Chad. This is our BC8 from Bear Creek Arsenal. It has a 24-inch barrel, Phantom M2 up front. We've got our Swiss P AP. This is 196 grain tungsten core. Now VPAM 12 is the same projectile. I do believe it's 2650 feet per second, and that's out of a 308. So we should see, I think, 2800 feet per second, give or take, out of this. So we're going to throw 2 shots at this. Now, if any of my followers have a BC8, let me know how the reliability's been on it. I think there's a magazine design problem with the 300 Win Mag, to where I'm going to charge this weapon, and a lot of times the bolt carrier gets stuck about 80% of the way forward. I have to drop the magazine and then kind of give the charging handle a little bit of a tug to get it to chamber for some reason. I've polished the chamber. It's got about 150, 200 rounds through it, so I'm not quite sure what it is. I've swapped magazines, so let's try it. And yep, it got stuck, so I have to drop the magazine, pull the charging handle back, and then it sends it home. So this could be the upper part of the plate. 2705, so the upper right part of the plate. 2703. So those, I would say, are pretty slow for a 300 Win Mag. I imagine we can probably hand load these a little hotter. Now this is where it's going to get completely off the wall ridiculous. We've got our 338 Lapua Magnum. This is our Ruger Precision Magnum, the 26-inch barrel. We got the adjustable bag rider out back, and the Rex Selenium MG50 up front. normally for the Barrett M107 A150 BMG, but we have a direct thread for our 338 Lapua. We have two Swiss P AP rounds here. We've got a 260 grain API. It has a titanium tip and a tungsten penetrator core. Then we have the 260 grain full metal jacket with the tungsten penetrator in it, the same that the 196 grain 300 Win Mag Swiss P AP has. Left of the plate, 2577. 2714. Not very fast. Our Swiss P AP and 300 Win Mag, number 1, and then number 2. I should try to hand load those to see if I can get some more velocity out of them because those are quite slow. And the same with the 338. This was the API, and that was that same tungsten penetrator, but at 260 grains. Place those butts in the comments below. Uh-oh, Raggy. We popped right through that guy. But look at our dimple on the 338 API. I mean, that's quite a bit of muzzle energy. Now, like I said, those should be around 3,000 feet per second with a little more velocity. But our back face is not terrible. It's very spread out. I don't know what else we can throw at these plates because they are doing very well. Only these really obscure tungsten threats, which are near impossible to find, are making the way through. I'm kind of running out of threats to throw at these plates, but I have something special. This is R&D NDA at this point, so if I go to picture-in-picture, it might be blurred, but I will show you that it does not attract a magnet, so there is no ferrous metal inside of that particular full metal jacket. We are using the SIG hybrid cases. We've got the 24-inch 2817, 2852, and a third shot for good measure, 2799. Our NDA shots, number 1, 2, and then 3. Place those bets in the comments below. Uh-oh, Raggy. We had penetration on that third round down there, and I would say that's a pretty good fair hit. We do have some of the polyethylene bunched up from that 338 shot right there. We're likely going to need more testing on that to know 100% because it was stopped here and here. I should be able to bump those velocities up based on the manufacturer's initial findings from what they did. We're peeling the polyethylene up here. I would say at this point, this plate is still pretty hard down here. Plate number 3 is ready to go. We brought back out the 300 Win Chad, and we actually have some 300 Win Chad loads. We've got our 150 grain M14 A1 API, Mr. Flashy Flash, the incendiary. We've got our M2 Armor Piercing Plus P Plus, should be 3,250 feet per second or more. Then we've got our M80 A1 130 grain EPR. Then we've got the Holy Grail. This is M993, loaded in 300 Winchester Magnum velocities. We'll take that shot first. 34, 37, 33, 64, and I smoked the straps again, folks. Hold on a second. Second round of Mr. Flashy Flash. 3389, 3278, 3297 on the bottom left. 3543, that is smoking hot, folks. Let's go see what we did.
So much fire, so satisfying.
A day isn't complete without smoking quite a few of these straps. I do want to plug my Patreon or Subscribe Star for a second to say if you'd like to support me. These are like $3 a piece, and I do go through quite a lot of them. Anyways, onto our plate. Here was our Holy Grail. Here was Mr. Flashy Flash right there and there. There was the first M2 AP plus P plus. There was the second, and then there was our M80 A1 plus P plus. Place those bets in the comments below. Oh, Raggy, it looks like only that M2 armor piercing second shot penetrated, maybe because we destroyed enough of that ceramic around this area that was weak. Again, that's the downside at times to some of these shot patterns is, again, I have to stretch the amount of hits on a plate. You know, in the NIJ Labs protocol, they may shoot just that one right there and then get a fresh plate and a fresh plate. So interesting. But our holy grail, it was stopped in the last test, confirmed it was stopped in this test. It looks like you're going to need a pretty heavy projectile to defeat this particular ceramic strike face. I do believe it is silicon carbide titanium diboride. That's a mouthful.
Paging Dr. Matt to surgery. Paging Dr. Matt to surgery.
Now, for a fan favorite, the teardown. That's where we get to look at the guts of these plates and see what their composition is to the best of my guessing ability. This is plate number 3. Here is our strike face. It is laminated somewhat. I would say it could be laminated a little better. I think HESCO does a very good job at laminating their strike faces, although when you're hitting them with a whole bunch of 300 Winchester Magnum, this type of silicon carbide tends to degrade faster than, say, alumina. I measured that right around 405 thousandths thick. You can see that that does go to the complete edge. There is like a strike face protectant up front, not like the foam, but it's more of a piece of polyethylene. I measured that right around 30 thousandths there. We do have a little bit of foam on the complete outer edge, and that helps with any bumps or bruises on the sides. Here is our polyethylene backer. I measured that right around 523 thousandths. It is not branded, so I'm not sure who makes this particular polyethylene. I do believe Adept says that these plates are made somewhere over in Europe. There is our single penetration on plate 3 of our M2 armor piercing. It is still fairly rigid though. It held its shape. We are starting to get a little bit of delamination there, but you know, we shot 6 rounds of 300 Winchester Magnum on this plate and it held up pretty darn well. I wonder if that one squeaked through because of how much damage that one of the first shot of M2 AP+P+ did, but the rest of them were stopped. And then on the back, we have this foam right here. I'm not sure if this is for blunt force trauma or if this is to help cut some of the sharp edges, but we measured right around 176 thousandths. Here is plate number 2. Our only confirmed penetrations were the 338 Swiss PAP and that NDA R&D projectile down there. Now this one's pretty interesting up here. We're at the edge and you can see how far that projectile made it in there, whatever it's made out of. I cannot tell you at this point. That one you can see squeaked right through there, but that one right there was stopped. I was kind of hoping more for a show from that 338 API, but you know, can't complain too much. Here is the strike face. We have destroyed most of it. There is a solid area down here, but you can see some of that crack propagation happening down there. Now I'm not sure if that's from the drop test or if that's from these other shots destroying it, but it still is pretty much in one piece. Here is the backer for plate number 1. Our only penetrations were the 7.62x5.4 R7N37. Our 8mm SMKH just plows right through there. Then our slap did as well, and that little cool Lapua tungsten exposed penetrator did too. Here is the strike face. At this point, it's pretty much identical to the other 3. It is destroyed, and so is my table. Let's clean this mess up.
Well, folks, I don't think I'll financially recover from this test. Most of that ammunition was very rare and very hard to come by. I tried to source at least 2 to 3 of that 7N37 to have a better test on, but that's all I could pry out of the collector's hands. Very, very interesting that it was able to penetrate, but again, I think the entire takeaway from this test is that 8mm SMKH is still king of the hill when it comes to penetrating personal worn body armor that's made up of ceramic. The silicon carbide titanium diboride, if I'm saying that right, ceramic that Adept uses, seems to do very well. We stopped one of our 2 slap rounds as well as our M993 and other tungsten carbide type penetrators, but again, some of those other threats and or a close proximity of them seem to win in this case against this particular plate. During the teardown, we didn't see anything that was different from the first time that we tested it. We had very well pressed polyethylene, although it is unbranded. Our strike face was pretty well laminated, although I've seen better lamination, but I think with that silicon carbide base it tends to fall apart easier than, say, our alumina. We don't have any strike face foam on this particular panel. I would advocate for it after doing the drop test and hearing some cracking, but in hindsight, it's, RF3, so stopping M2 armor piercing hasn't been an issue for this plate. We were able to stop our VPAM 12 threat as well. Our 6.8 by 51 millimeters still remains a mystery until we can see some more of that tungsten on the market eventually. Hopefully, maybe, if we're lucky, we'll get some of that to do some testing with. All in all, after this test, I would still place our Adept Colossus at the tippy top of my recommendation list, especially if your mission dictates that you need protection against some of our advanced tungsten core penetrator threats. With all that being said, it's time for me to get the heck out of here, but at the end of all of my videos, I take a moment to thank all those who helped make these possible, because there's a lot that goes into them. Number one is my family. They're always out here helping me every chance that they can get, either cleaning things or doing yard work or pulling the trigger from time to time. Deacon would like to remind you all to like and subscribe and share this video so that a logarithm can work for us and not against us. Number two are my Patreon, Subscribestar, and YouTube channel members. I have a campsite in the description below. It's a landing page with different affiliate discount tracking links in it that cost you nothing, but they earn me a sales commission. I have never been the one to push you guys towards any sales. I just leave those links there so that if you have collected enough of your own personal data and you've made a buying decision on something and you want to say thank you to the channel, that's what those links are for. As I mentioned, I do have one for Adept, so if you're looking at picking up these plates, that discount code is there. Number three is Jake over at Adept Armor. Again, in full transparency, he sent me these plates to destroy with no strings attached. I contacted him after mentioning having some of these rare threats, and he was more than willing to send some of these plates for us so we can collect that data on. Number four and number five are my friends Ray P and Josh H. Again, helped me procure some firearms to shoot these obscure threats in. And of course, number six is you all for watching. Until next time, I'll catch you at the range.